So I wanted to share today, and I think I'll have to go a little bit quicker than expected, some experiences, some practices on using or on the impact of AI in creative practices, let's say, or whatever what we do on an everyday basis. I am, as Daniel said, I am a teacher. I teach courses for my master's students, and I also do some research. So first, this is my plan, very quick today, in 5 parts, right? So let's start with the first one, because I wanted to share with you that part of my research, part of my work, it's I think that seen on time, because I started a little bit some time ago. I have like I think I have tried to work with time. So one of the first things that really attracted me back in those days was this piece by Art+Com. I don't know if you have seen this piece. It is about, now it's an old piece, a classical piece. It was about recording or giving the specialized shape of a video recording, right? So in that time, if we think video, or if we think cinema or any other kind of moving images, not only as a sequence of frames, we can think of them also as a representation of shape and space. This is another work that was presented in a conference. You know, more and more conferences today include an exhibition or a demo part. I think that's very useful as well, and I think that all kind of conferences can include indeed an exhibition or a demonstration of creative practices, right? So in this part, I wanted to see that the projection in what you are seeing, you can push, and indeed it's like whatever you push is like you are moving in time. So what I have been doing is that using some specialized software that uses in the background some AI techniques. I think this is a good starting point, that AI is something that we have been using since for a while now, for a long time, even though sometimes we don't realize that we have been using that. So in this case, this is a representation of a video in form of a 3D object, right? So you can see that we go from the left to the right, from the first frame to the last frame, and each frame I have just taken out the background, so I can only see the shapes, and then if we put them together, we can see those like patterns, like movement patterns. And what can we do about that? Well, we can, for instance, see plastic properties. This is, for instance, history of the homepage of Google, for instance. So for those interested perhaps in web studies or search engines or UX, UI evolution of elements, this can, perhaps you can see how the objects change in time. We can ask questions now like, okay, so it seems that at this year, the tab or those buttons change. We can see here more and more like adjustments into what is the actual version. And what's more interesting to me is that we can continue doing this in time. We can continue doing this more on a regular basis, right? So this is another example, right? This is an homage I did for Peter Weiber, who was the director of ZKM, the Karlsruhe Centrum for Media Art, and he passed away sadly just recently. But well, the idea is that, right? So because it's an object, it's a 3D object. Of course, you can print that out. This is a representation, a printed representation of that object that I did in like 12 years ago, and it was very costly. I think that today could be more easily done. So this kind of background, this kind of approach, right? Now at a distance, I think that AI has allowed me to introduce like a new scale of how can I see the use of AI in time, right? In time always, at least in this first part. So this one is another project that I did. It was more into the communication and exhibition and installation in a public space, right? So it was about asking the public, asking the visitors to write a message and to send that message, to share it with us, and then to captivate, to invite them in a more visual or perhaps pleasing way. I imagine that we can think that the message would go through this wormhole, right? And if you like science fiction or physics, there is this theory that we can think that we can move in time, we can travel in time if we go through a wormhole, right? So I promised in 2012 to the participants that I would send back, that those messages would come back in time, come back, so in the future, 10 years later. And when, if you can imagine that, that was 2012, and I said that to participants. Many were kids, many were young researchers, and when I said 10 years after, now 10 years have passed. Indeed, 2 years ago, those 10 years have passed. So 10 years ago, I would just send back. Of course, some mail addresses were not functioning anymore. Of course, some messages were perhaps very naive at that time. But anyhow, the idea was that it worked on time, right? So it worked in well. I could spend more time talking about this project, but the idea is that it made me realize how the choices that we make today, perhaps if we care about those projects, choices, interactions, effects, we can think of them in 10 years, right? And 10 years pass very quickly. So this, I think, was the first lesson. So this was done in using like a code by hand. At that time, it was a little bit difficult to use generative AI to produce text. So I had to, of course, contact many other colleagues. I don't have a computer science background. However, I do have some technical skills. So, well, anyhow, this is just to say that our today tools like ChatGPT that we can ask for help. 10 years ago, of course, we had to, and of course we can do that today, ask to our networks of friends, right? So let me continue. What happened today is that I am happy to show you, I think that this is the first time that I am showing you, that I am showing this project in a public conference. This is a project that I've done for a conference on computer graphics called SIGGRAPH. It's one of the most, let's say, well-known, respected in the field of mainly computer science, but also art and design. And what I've done is that so now SIGGRAPH is 50 years. They have been 50 conferences, right? So I wanted to ask some pioneers, some first adopters of computing technology. Okay, some of them predicted the future 50 years ago. My question was, okay, so what would be indeed the next 50 years right, of computer graphics and interactive techniques. And it's very, I mean, seen once more at a distance, it seems quite easy to say, well, yes, 50 years ago, it was easy to say that in 50 years, AI would be like a good or very strong component in our everyday life. Okay, so if you, I am talking to Daniel and all the attendees of reframing, if you do have like an idea, please feel free to contribute, right? We have some first participants that we contacted. Some of them, maybe you don't know them because are from the field of digital art or digital design, but maybe some other you do know because, well, anyhow, are from the motion graphics or cinema or many. So it's an open project to fields that are like related to computer graphics, right? So I was very pleased to have the contributions by, for instance, Everardo Reyes. He was the founder of Pixar, for instance, and so many other friends and colleagues. So you can feel free to navigate, and if you want to, of course, to contribute, to participate. By the way, Paul Brown, he is an Australian-based artist. I met just in person recently, last week, as Daniel was saying. I was in Brisbane. Next project to move on. Of course, I've been using, as all of you, generative AI services. So Midjourney is one of them. As you can imagine, working in time, I want, or what I've been doing is that since the, let's say, public access release to Midjourney by late 2022, right? I asked to create I have been using the same prompt, like visualizing something like a network of millions of nodes and links. That was more or less the prompt. And as you can see in the left part of the screen, it has changed, right? In 2022, it was this kind of representation. Even it seems to me like there is like a signature in the bottom of the image. I mean, a lot of gradients, and of course, we are far from what I asked, right? Like, show me a network of millions of nodes and links. We are more in the hundreds, indeed, right? Nodes. In the right, I've been doing this every 5 months. So it's February 2023. Okay, 1 year and 5 months later, same prompt, you have these results, and 5 months afterwards, I mean, and that's today, right? July 2024, we have this kind of representations. And well, I am not really, I mean, I am just an explorer, right? We are observers. I am just taking a look and seeing how the same prompt evolves in time. Let's see if sometimes, if one day I'll get to the real complexity that I was looking for in the same at the first place. But I mean, so as you can see, you can imagine that in my work, at least I will continue this, of course, on a regular basis. This is 5 months, and we'll see what happens in, let's say, 5 years, 10 years. I mean, no, let's see how it evolves. We'll have to wait. And this other project is not is similar in the sense of using the same prompt, not every 5 months, but in here is every 1 month. Every 1 month, I use more or less the similar prompt, and what I've been doing this is that it's of course a mythical interrogation, right? Why mythical? Because I think that relates to subjectivity, that relates to what we do on an everyday basis, right? We become like we are expected to do a lot of different stuff, and that evolves, that changes. So let me show you very briefly this project. So but we are lucky, because I am lucky, because today I said that this image there I publish every 3 of the month a new image that interrogates those, as I was saying, new activities that used to be jobs, but now that we do on an everyday basis, right? So, well, this is kind of an interrogation also to a more fully theoretical and discussion from another point of view, like semiotics. And but anyhow, you can see in here that July is the cook, so we can see alchemists, right? And you can feel free to explore this other kind of RMIT, right? Arts and crafts that we can call them, geographer. So let's see what happens in by December, right? When we will collect the 12, the zodiac of arts and crafts, the 12. Or at least the first 12 portraits, right? So then we can go more into details. Moving on, generative text. This is something that I've been working a lot, because when I arrived in France and at the lab, my advisor was working a lot on generative text. He's a digital poet. He does digital literature. So what we have been doing since that time is that instead of generating poetry as we would do today with ChatGPT, it was a very complex system of rules, of vocabularies, and variations, let's say. And in French, as contrary to English, we have a lot of different, accents, different words, different characters, and of course, if you want to use masculine, feminine, you have to make the correspondence. So, in time, I mean, Jean-Pierre, my advisor, has been keeping alive the generator, in the sense that at first it was done with HyperCard, which used to be a very old system for Mac in the 80s. And then today we have translated the generator into JavaScript, which is good because it allows us to do web-based, let's say, graphical interventions of those poems. I can show you very briefly one. This was the one of the first poems. The idea is that you will see here in the black square, every time that you click on the screen, that there's going to be a new project. Sorry, it's in French, but perhaps you got the idea that those kind of texts can be related also to the everyday life. So what I wanted to do with Jean-Pierre was like, okay, so on a regular basis as well, creating new ways, right, of seeing these poems. Of course, this is not new, right? I mean, we've seen many graphical interventions of text since Fluxus, right? Since Oulipo, since Modernism, Marinetti. But indeed, in here, the idea is that it's an API. We can do it. I mean, everybody can start like trying to treat text as a plastic element. This one that you are seeing, that I am generating more and more, was done by hand, right? And the last one that I did for you guys today is done on using ChatGPT, right? So I have been dialoguing, indeed, having a conversation with ChatGPT in my case, and I try to go from the less complicated to more complicated instructions, right? So I think that if I start asking for simple things and then I build on top of those simple things, I can get more or less what I want. Of course, you have to write or to adjust yourself. But here's what it looks like in this first version, right? So it is loading. As you can see, there is some text flying in the screen. Let me generate another one. As I click, it will generate one more, but you can see more or less that text is, you can zoom out, zoom in, and you can see that, I mean, perhaps it's of course difficult to read here a poem, right? But if you imagine that if you put this on a public installation or on a public space, that text can be running all the time, right? And you can stop. I will click on an S, so you can like go and read the poem, right? And as I was saying, this was done thanks to ChatGPT. This is something that I wanted to do like some time before, but as you know, we get busy. We get more and more busy with all kind of stuff. So I said, well, yeah, I will. I was telling Daniel last week that I had a list of small codes to write, and I said, well, there's going to be one summer, there's going to be one day that I'll have time to just sit and write those codes and get it done. And it has not happened until more or less today that I used the help of ChatGPT, right? Well, this was just to say that, of course, I like to print, to go beyond the screen, like printing these kind of objects, right? These are donations that I give to friends, right? So anyhow, last thing, I think this is the last project that I wanted to show is cultural V's, colors of pop culture, as I call them. This is indeed an article that I wrote with Lev Manovich for Leonardo. The idea is that if we take a similar, or at least in this case, this is the videography, right? All the videos, all the official videos, music videos by a group, a rock group called Nirvana, very old group, right? Grunge from the 90s. They released officially 5 videos. So the idea was that, again, as you remember from the first slides, I like to take the video, split the video into frames, into images, single images. Those images, if you put them together, right, not the whole image, but only a slice of the image, if you put them together, you can see this kind of textures, patterns, whatever you want to imagine what you are seeing here. Or you can, if you like montage, maybe you are seeing here, oh yes, in here, this is maybe because editing is faster, maybe why faster. If you are the expert of this video, maybe you will know, oh yes, this is faster because the battery, the rock has a more the rhythm of the music is is there interrelationship between the visual and, of course, sound, other media. So perhaps this is another lesson. Perhaps if I only do this for one video, it's going to be interesting, but I think it's more interesting if we do this for a whole, for a complete corpus, right? So I think it's better when you see the whole thing. And well, what can we do? We do this. What can we do with this? This is like a what I call a second order aesthetics, right? It's like using the product, the result of a image processing uh, routine, right, as the primary resource to do something else. Indeed, so what you are seeing now is a Cartesian transformation of the same arrangement of images, but I couldn't have done this if I hadn't in the first place, right? The split of the video into a sequence of images. So again, seen as a whole, as a collection, I think that's the word. It's a collection. I think you have perhaps better results or more interesting results, or at least you can ask more complete or more developed questions, right? We can interrogate what we are seeing now. Of course, because we have this in the first hand, this first transformations, right? We can do speculative visualizations, like aesthetic visualizations, and because in the digital, everything is like data, numbers, quantities. It's not forbidden, right, to do this kind of explorations. So in this, of course, once more, these were done by hand, right? I wanted to just organize in the space how can 2,000 images can organize in a different shape than the classical scatter plot, and this was part of an exhibition by students at the Winchester School. If you recognize, that's Université Paris at the left. But what now with AI, right? I think that this kind of background, one of those codes that I have is this. I created this tool that I call drag and hue. Let me show you. I think I can show you a quick demo if I have a couple of minutes. Here I can show you this one. I can show you this one. So the idea is that I will select some files, right? And you will see a visualization, right? Random positions of the images that I loaded, and what you are seeing here is what it means is that if you go into this each circle, right, represents an album cover, right? And it was done super easily with I used ChatGPT 4.0 to help me doing these kind of things, right? And of course I can continue building on these kind of productions, right? If you want to see something else, this started because I like to in my courses until last year, I was asking students, okay, so you have this corpus of images, 2,000, 1,000, 500, I don't know. Now, what we need to do is that for each image, we have to extract the colors, right? You have to summarize the colors. You have to tell me which is the first or the most frequent color. And then when we have these quantities, you can now imagine to use those quantities as visual parameters, as visual, parameters, for instance, which one could represent the amount of from left to right, one other can represent the height, one other can represent, I think you got the idea. So This was until last year. I think what I will now work with my students will be, of course, something different, because we can now very easily ask, I mean, dialogue with ChatGPT and other tools, and create not only this kind of representations, but I mean, we can now continue and moving to create many different representations of I mean, visual images, for instance, right? One more, and I think that's it, right? So I think that in the end, what AI and creativity, what I mean, the useful of AI in creativity, especially if you like, or if you work on visual culture, graphic design, video, media studies, communication, is indeed that, of course, like the web, there's no pretext, right, not to use these tools. But I think that we should have to think broader, right? Instead of thinking of solving one task, maybe we have to think about how to imagine a series of tasks, right? It's not about solving a problem, but to imagine how to design problems. If you understand well my point, right? So I think that this was my last slide. Sorry for being late. I hope that it was clear, and I'm really sorry for not being in Melbourne with you this morning, but I'll be around for a discussion, and happy to see you one time, right? Thank you, Daniel.